It's time to press start on an all-new episode of the Hyrule Huddle. Join hosts Kevin McGuire of NBC's College Football Talk and Josh Webb of Scout Media as they explore the vast world of sports and video games. So grab your multi-tap, press start, and level up with Kevin and Josh as they blast process the week's latest from the wide world of sports and pop culture.
Hey everybody, welcome into a brand new episode of the Hyrule Huddle. Yes, we're giving it another try. We're trying to iron out a few more wrinkles. We're getting there. I promise you that. I'm Kevin McGuire. My partner here in crime here is Josh Webb. Josh, how's it going today?
It is going great, Kevin. I think that we are about to embark upon what could quite possibly be a dream month for me. There's going to be so much soccer on this month that, I mean, think about this. We've got Copa America Centenario, which the coolest thing about that is it's going to be played in our most iconic stadiums in the college football world here in the United States. Then we got the Euros, and then just shortly after that, we get the Olympics. In terms of packed for sports in the summer, and that doesn't even count the NBA Finals and NHL Finals, which we're going to talk about today, man. If you're a sports fan and having a bad time right now, I don't know what to... Even Cleveland is having a good time.
Cleveland is having a good time, and that's going to be kicking off or tipping off tonight with the NBA Finals, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the defending champion Golden State Warriors. It's a rematch of last year. We'll talk about that in just a second. I want to real quick just run down a couple things because it's been a while since we tried launching a stream here, and as people, if you have been following us along, you know that we've been having some struggles getting this off the ground, but I am finally feeling pretty good about the direction we're heading. Hopefully everything's coming across all right in this episode. If you have any feedback, we definitely want to hear from you. So you can give us you can reach us on Twitter at the Hyrule Huddle on Twitter. You can also catch me on Twitter at Kevin on CFB. Josh is at, my mind just went blank on it. Josh is Fight on Twist. Yes. I don't know what everything's just running so smoothly. I had to forget something, so that's all right. It's all good.
Sort of like that phone call last night.
Yes, yeah. I totally missed a message to give my partner here a phone call so we could discuss a couple things. But hey, you know what? Let's get this show rolling here. As you can see, we're going to be playing some FIFA 16. Where we got Colombia and USA. One of first, as we're getting this all going, I want to make sure that we address and recognize the fact that the NHL Stanley Cup Finals is already 2 games into the mix. Pittsburgh Penguins taking a Game 2 victory last night, 2-1, an overtime snipe just minutes into the overtime session there. Penguins take a 2-0 lead on the San Jose Sharks, who are making their first appearance in the Stanley Cup Final. Now, Josh, I know you're not a huge hockey guy right now, and honestly, I don't follow it all that closely once my Philadelphia Flyers are out of the mix, but we're entering in a situation now where a guy like Sidney Crosby is really going to kind of leave his mark here. He's been around this game now for a little while. He came in as the hotshot kid. Certainly, he's already won 1 Stanley Cup. Win a second Stanley Cup, getting your name on the cup twice. That's a pretty good legacy to have, and he still has a lot of hockey to go.
Yeah, I do believe that the Penguins, once upon a time, had a feller that seemed to be relatively successful, was the face of the franchise, and brought them a boatload of glory and titles. I can't remember his name. It was something like Lemieux, something Mario, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So, obviously Mario Lemieux, Sid Crosby, two different players. Two different eras. But when you talk about what sports teams in general, especially the Penguins, mean to Pittsburgh, kind of might find this hard to believe, but the Penguins are probably, I don't know, I don't live out that way, but it feels like to me that it's like the Steelers, the Penguins, the Sixers are dead last, and then maybe the Pirates there in third, depending. The Pirates are gaining ground because I feel like they're doing much better lately. But for a while there, it was probably the Sixers and the Pirates in the cellar, and all anybody ever cared about were the Steelers and the Penguins. So, yeah, I mean, I almost feel bad for the San Jose Sharks because their fans have waited how long for this?
It's been a long time. This is their first, first trip to the final, and they came in the early '90s.
But more than that, how many times have the Sharks had the President's Trophy and not made the finals or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, they have a history of coming up small in the postseason, so that's why it's been kind of interesting to watch them finally get over that one hurdle. Now they've dug a little bit of a hole, but we'll see what they do once they get back on their home ice.
Yeah, once you get back, I think I saw a tweet going around that the demand for the tickets at the Shark Tank were the most obscene that they'd ever been for an NHL final. I think like a starting ticket, not like a good ticket, a starting ticket
right.
was like $925, which doesn't surprise me at all. San Jose, right in the heart of Silicon Valley, just tech everywhere. So what does the Shark Tank think about 20,000, somewhere around there? 20,000, I think.
Yeah, that's the general average, I think, for most hockey arenas.
Yeah, it seems about fair. I'm not a Stadia expert when it comes to hockey. And I hope you Latin gurus out there appreciated that I used the proper plural there for I think that once they get it back to the Shark Tank, I think that San Jose has enough by way of not just a community atmosphere, but teams being able to feed off of that sort of home crowd to generate the best parts of their own game. We could see this series turn, but based on my timeline, it looks like the Sharks are kind of getting, it's like the Carolina Panthers. They may end up putting up a pretty good fight, but ultimately for them it was their second trip, but
right.
It's this early postseason jitters from teams who've not been there before, and you sort of have to go through this in order to find out what you need to bring out of yourself to shine in the playoffs. And so this just may be a learning curve for San Jose. But I'll tell you what, man, they made it to the finals, and by any stretch of the imagination, regardless of the outcome, I think that that's a hurdle that Sharks fans are thrilled to see their team get over.
Yeah, they should be when you put it all into perspective, and certainly not going to write the Sharks off. You get the next two games at home. Like you said, you can build off of the energy a little bit. You can kind of regain some momentum and get footing. Get back to Pittsburgh, tied 2-2, not entirely out of the realm of possibility. And then you got a short 3-game series. Should be a lot of fun. But elsewhere around that bay out there in California, you're going to see the NBA Finals get started. Like I said earlier, defending NBA champions Steph Curry and the Warriors. Taking on
teams that choke up in the postseason.
Are you referring to
the team that the Warriors beat to arrive?
Oh, yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kevin Durant. You're up 3-1. You got to win that series. I don't care if you're taking on the best team.
3-1, and you took a game in the first half of the series on their turf.
Yeah, you gotta close it out. You gotta close it out.
I mean, really, what was the point of firing Brooks to bring in Billy Donovan to do the exact same thing? Like, what? It's not like he got him any further.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that is going to be one of the bigger choke jobs, and you can kind of wonder what that means for a guy like Kevin Durant, who's going to be hitting free agency. So, honestly, I'm not going to take anything away from Kevin Durant. It's there's still some good talented players there in Oklahoma City, but like I said, you're up 3-1. You got to win that series. You cannot let you cannot let a team as talented as Golden State have any chance.
They had them. Like, how long were they up in? I think it was in Game 6. I watched most of that with my best friend back in Oklahoma City. They had that game in the bag until about 3/4 of the way through the fourth quarter, and then they just kind of the goal. Don't worry, they won't come back.
Yep.
Like, they're rarely do I say to a team that there are no excuses, but in this situation, there are no excuses. That was as bad of a drop of a ball as I've ever seen. But I've never seen the team have so many chances to put one other team away and not be able to do it.
It doesn't happen very often.
Back, the 2004 Yankees.
Yeah, against the Red Sox. I actually saw the Flyers came back from a 3-0 deficit against the Boston Bruins a few years back, so that was kind of mesmerizing. But it does not happen often, and you have to have the killer instinct, because if you don't, you're going to let something slip away, and maybe that's a chance that Oklahoma City is missing out on a championship. You never know.
Yeah, and the sad part for the Thunder is that I truly don't think Durant's going to be back. I think there's only so much headache you can take with almost having been there, almost having been there, almost having been there, and
right.
then realizing, why am I not doing what LeBron and these fools are doing? But that being said, the only thing that I'll say about this, and then we can move on, is I was thinking about this the other day, and a lot of people are kind of wondering if Durant's not going to sign with the Golden State Warriors, because I've seen that as sort of a one of the leading projected teams to, maybe go in for his signature. But I'm sitting there thinking, I don't see how that works.
I'm not exactly sure.
I don't see how you put Durant on the Golden State Warriors and then the Warriors still remain the Warriors. I don't. I think if Durant joins the Warriors, that is the end of the Warriors as we know them. And then if you take that away from the Warriors, their ability to play their game, I do not think that they have the ability to match up with other teams in the NBA. I think that the Warriors, I won't say have stumbled upon, because they've created this. They've sort of changed the game from outside in, or from inside out to outside in. And it's been remarkable to watch them do that in the NBA. But if you go out and add Durant, it's almost like adding a Carmelo Anthony. What's the point of adding Durant unless you're going to give him 38, and 10? And
right.
then how does that work with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry? That's
a big question. It's a big question. Yeah, I don't even think it's a realistic enough possibility to give it much more discussion than that, because I really just feel like of all the places Kevin Durant could possibly be going now, if he is to leave Oklahoma City, I don't see Golden State being the team that brings him in. But anyway, Josh, let's
the Lakers.
You know what? Yeah, it could very well be.
They need either the Lakers or the Clippers. LA right now, with the NFL coming back, these teams are going to know that come the fall, they're going to have a lot more competition than just the Trojans and the Bruins.
Yep,
so
that's true.
There had better be a marquee player on the Lakers, because whatever the hell it was that they put on the court last year, Kobe ain't coming back, nor do I think he should. But whatever the hell it was they put on the court last year, no. That's not. Look, man, Jared Goff as a rookie is going to put more asses in the seats than if the Lakers bring back something akin to what they fielded this year.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens with the LA sports team, at least from a distance, with the NFL making its return there, and the dynamic that means for the entire sports community. Because, like you said, there's going to be some major competition there, and we could have some good college football there too.
It's not just the NFL. LAFC decided that they were, the MLS added a second Los Angeles team.
Right.
So now you've got the Galaxy, and LA are supposedly trying to go out and sign some of these players that are going to be leaving the Premier League, some of the bigger names. Excuse me. So now you have the Galaxy, LAFC, the Sparks, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Trojans, the Bruins, the Rams. I know I'm forgetting the Kings, the Angels, the Dodgers.
Don't forget about
a lot of money. What am I forgetting?
The LA Kiss, the arena football team, right?
Dude, I totally forgot about the Kiss.
Yeah, you can't forget about the Arena Football League. But yeah, it's gonna be It's going to be heavily populated. Does Will Ferrell have season tickets to every team out there, or just a select few?
I don't think Will Ferrell has any sort of ticket whatsoever to the UCLA Bruins. Just, being an alum and all, I'm going to go ahead and guess that he doesn't attend those games.
That's fair enough.
Unless they're playing the Trojans.
Right.
But, yeah, dude, I pretty much assume if you're Will Ferrell, I don't think it's a season ticket issue. I think if you're Will Ferrell, you just decide what game you want to go to, and
you just show up.
Yeah, it just happens.
You just show up, and they've got the access for you. Yep, I imagine that's true.
Real talk, dude. If you were a security guard, let's say you're CSC working, at the Coliseum or whatever the case may be, and Will Ferrell comes up to the gate. It's actually Will Ferrell, and he's like, "I don't have a ticket, but I'm Will Ferrell." Like, look,
I'm letting him in.
It may get me fired, but I'm not gonna be the one that says I'm not letting you in.
Right? Yeah, you have to let some people in,
I'm not gonna be
and
the
he's
jerk
one of them.
that tells Will Ferrell no, dude. I'm not going on the internet. It's just not gonna happen. I'll be like, happily lost my job, letting Will Ferrell in.
Yep. You'll be the talk of the blogosphere, that's for sure.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'd be like that JetBlue guy.
All right, Josh. Let's make the switch over to our game today. We're going to be playing some FIFA 16. We got it pretty much all set up. So why don't we get started with this one? Let's adjust our audio settings a little bit so you guys can hear the game audio as we're playing along. All right, so we're playing this game, Josh, because the summer of soccer is about to kick off for us. So I know Mike Francesca is not a huge fan of that. But I don't really care. I know you are, so I want to let you take the lead on what we've got going on here.
Well, Mike, honestly, I don't really find anything that Francesca says to be worth the salt.
Well, did you hear
litters the earth?
Did you hear the rant he had against Sports Illustrated probably last week?
I saw something to that effect, but so catch me up first of all on what Mike Francesca did he go off on soccer?
Yeah, he went off. But what he did was, I guess Sports Illustrated had a huge preview of all the stuff that's going to be happening this summer. I guess I forget exactly. I think they said like the summer of soccer or something like that, and how America is going to be tuning in. So Mike Francesca, not a big soccer fan, just so you know, in that New York market, as it is kind of the narrative for a lot of the older generation sports talk radio guys, from what I've seen out here on the East Coast. He went on a tirade about Sports Illustrated investing so much time and effort into previewing a sport that he thinks that nobody's going to be watching. Now we know that soccer still has some room to grow in this country, but we know that the audience is drastically different than what it may have been 15, 20 years ago.
I don't think that he realizes that soccer as a sport dwarfs anything that has ever existed in America. So, like I was posting the stats the other day. I think it was the Champions League final in 2014 between Atletico and Real Madrid. Worldwide had something like 350 million viewers. Meanwhile, the Super Bowl, checks in at about 140. And it's all well and good that Francesca might not think that anybody cares about the sport. What that really translates into, I think, is I don't like the sport, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that nobody else likes the sport. But I think he's going to be surprised by exactly how much soccer is watched here in America. And, there's a reason that the Premier League is the richest league in the world, and a lot of it is because the amount of money that they've made with their partnership with NBC, and what NBC as a company, in full disclosure here, Kevin, although he works for NBC, I do not, so I'm in no way, shape, or form obligated to say this. But the what NBC has done for the Premier League is, in my opinion, one of the most impressive things I've ever seen for a company growing a sport maybe outside of what ESPN's done with college football?
Well, I will, I'll chime in real quickly. I do applaud what the folks at NBC have done with the Premier League. Having that broadcast the way that they've been doing it, I think it's been fantastic the way they've been doing it. I know that they're still working on ways to improve. They're digging in on soccer. I mean, they just brought in the men in Blazers guys within the last year or so. That was one of the big moves that they did. I mean, they're trying to go all in with a sport that they feel like they can kind of take the reins with as far as the coverage in this country is concerned.
Yeah, and it's not just that they do, taking the reins with it. They do a fantastic job with this coverage. That the announcers that are there for this are absolutely fantastic. The coverage, I think, is fair and balanced. I hate that phrase. It's fair. There's not a heavy overload for any one team. They do a good job of pointing out the pros and cons, even of the mega rich guys that like to throw their weight around in the British media. That we just don't have any of that here in the United States, and well, at least not yet with soccer on NBC. And I think that by and large, it's helped the casual fan get into the sport, help them, maybe pick up on things that they would not have known. I know NBC has the Two Robbies podcast, which is completely set up for to explain tactics and whatnot to the casual watcher if they don't understand them. But by and large, every single time I sit down, I've always been impressed with the coverage that NBC provides, and especially on the when they use every single one of their sister stations, parent stations, I don't know what you want to call them, to air every possible game. That so that you can really take in the relegation and top four fights. And that type of stuff is paramount to not just the sport, but also kind of getting caught up in the drama of what makes soccer so special. These relegation battles that don't exist
right
in American sports. It's all part of the drama, the theater of the sport, and I think that NBC is really second to none. I know Fox is doing an okay job with the Bundesliga, but they've got a long way to go before they catch up to NBC and the Premier League, I think.
So what we've got going on right now, like I said, we're playing U.S. versus Colombia. I just took a little surprising 1-0 lead on my friend here. Kind of caught him off guard. I don't know. Well, you're much
like a bag of smashed crap.
You're much more seasoned at this game in general. So I mean, if you're taking it easy, I mean that's fine.
No, I'm not. Problem is I can't get anything going.
Yeah. But we are playing U.S. versus Colombia. Is this going to be one of the matches we're going to be watching pretty soon in the Copa?
Actually, the Copa America Centenario opens June the 3rd, Friday, and the match will be USA versus Colombia.
So explain what to the soccer novice, such as myself. Give me a kind of a rundown or a crash course on what this tournament is, and why we should be paying attention to it, and what can we learn from it as we're watching it.
Well, really, we can learn nothing from it. It's kind of this particular tournament is made up in some ways, in that the Copa America is actually a South American tournament.
Okay.
It's actually meant to decide the South American champion. However, what they've done for the Centenario, the 100th anniversary of this, is that they've brought in several teams from North America to turn this into a 16-team tournament that they're hoping will produce a lot more excitement. And they're doing it here on American soil, And it's going to be held in places like the Big House, the Rose Bowl, etc. And these are going to be loaded teams that are playing. This is South America's version of the Euros, which is basically the tournament to decide who gets an automatic bid to what is known as the Confederations Cup, which is a tournament the year prior to the World Cup, which really gives you an idea of where you're at with your team. It's a great way to judge kind of sort of where your program is at, how far you have to go before the World Cup. So it's exciting in that this is the first time that they've ever combined North and South America, to my knowledge, and there should be a boatload of excitement depending on how the U.S. does in this tournament.
How do you think the U.S. will do in this tournament?
I think they're going to bomb out fantastically.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you got to remember, this has got Argentina, Colombia, Uruguay,
yeah.
Even if they don't have all of their best players for every one of these teams, a lot of those teams are leaps and bounds better than the U.S., and especially post-World Cup, Klinsmann's probably not done the greatest job of winning people over and impressing.
Mm-hmm. I had a little tournament there.
So I think that they'll put up a fight to some degree. God dang it, man! You have got to be kidding me.
Things are going well for me, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, things may be looking up for the U.S., but ultimately I think the level of competition may be a bit too overwhelming.
But
they're certainly at least set up to get out of the group stage.
That was going to be one of my next questions, but I'm kind of curious. We've been hearing for years that the U.S. is trying to make strides with improving its soccer quality. Where are we as a nation with our national team, at least on the men's side? We know the women kick butt, but where are we with the men? Is there any realistic expectation in the long run that we could maybe make a run at any point? No. You're shutting it down pretty quickly. So
I say that patently, not to discredit U.S. soccer, but at a certain point, U.S. soccer has even addressed this issue. The best athletes in America are not playing the sport.
Right.
Until such a time that you see a shift in that, our fastest are if you had LeBron James playing as a striker for the United States, then you could be talking about a team that's coming close and making efforts in terms of what they do. But their top striker right now is a guy that graduated from CSU Bakersfield. No offense to my alma mater, but that's not going to exactly. I mean, that's not what World Cups are made of. The Road Runners, and that's why I think you've seen Klinsmann focus a lot of bringing in the talent that has dual citizenship, and he's convincing them to play for the United States at a younger age by virtue of giving them more time right out of the gate, which is something that it's a little bit harder for these established national squads to do because there's a political pecking order to sort of how you dole out your time. And I'm going to try and find any formation that's going to work for me here. But the simple fact of the matter is, just to sort of answer your question, is the United States just is right now not putting their best athletes on the pitch. And
that's been a story for a long time.
Yeah. You've got to find a way to inject some of our serious and best talent away from the NBA, away from the NFL, and away from some of these other sports and onto the field. And to be honest, it's kind of strange that we don't, given the amount of money that soccer players make compared to the paltry amounts that some of these other players. I would go and play in Europe if I had the talent long before I would sign up to play, I don't know, baseball or football. The money's just not there. I mean, you think about this for a second. Raheem Sterling, a 21-year-old unproven talent, transferred from Liverpool to Manchester City for over 50 million pounds. And he's done nothing. The guy is making about 200,000 pounds a week.
That's pretty nice. That's a pretty nice chunk of change right there.
That's a pretty nice chunk of change, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to have that if I could.
I would like to have that. And you know, the money's there, the sponsorships are there, and the sport's growing in America. So it's only a matter of time before that happens. But, you know, it took Spain until 2010 to win their first World Cup.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Yeah, that's. I always forget that was their first one. I mean, that's a country you would expect would have multiples at this point in the time.
Exactly. It took them until 2010, and the Netherlands don't even have one.
Yeah, that's true. And then that's always a good soccer nation too. I mean, that's so. Yeah,
the Netherlands basically invented the modern game. Johan Cruyff, who recently passed away, and is the
there you go.
godfather of the modern game. Pep Guardiola's greatest influence, who many consider to be the best manager today. And the guy who completely changed the face of Dutch, German, and Spanish soccer. Like, I mean, the Netherlands have not won a World Cup. So asking if the United States is almost there, you know, you got to put things in a worldly perspective like that. There are a lot of really damn good nations that have put out literally sport and world-changing players that have nothing to show for it.
Well, while I don't know too much about the Copa tournament, I do know a little bit about the Euro tournament. That's one of the few soccer tournaments that I've actually been, I've actually had the honor, or I guess the privilege, of being in Europe at the time that it was being played. I never went to one of them or anything, but I took a tour of Scotland years back, and I don't remember the year exactly, but I remember in the hotel pub area where we were all gathered one evening, everybody was watching. I guess it was England and Germany, and we had actually come in from our tour shortly after that match had been played. And my dad went up to the guy that was sitting there in the pub, and he asked, "Well, who won?" And the Scottish guy just turns to him with a huge grin on his face, and he says, "The Germans." So. Yeah, and ever since then, I've actually paid a little bit of attention to the Euro tournament because it does seem, I love these kind of national tournaments, so I'm always kind of curious to see how it's going to play out. So, what can you tell me about the Euros this year?
Well, outside of the World Cup finals, the Euro is, and the Champions League final are the two most watched sporting events and three most watched sporting events in the world. So, basically, what you're looking at with the Euros this year is. Germany coming, I guess you could say, quote, fresh off their victory in Brazil as the new World Cup champions are the prohibitive favorites going in. France probably would have been a favorite, but due to a number of injuries and a blackmailing scandal that involved one of their best available players.
Not a good look.
Yeah, no, France is probably going to end up, they're probably not going to do as well as they may have hoped coming into this thing. So, there are a lot of teams that can win it, but all I know is that the tournament starts on June 10th, and I seriously cannot wait. It is going to be a fantastic tournament, and that was a stupid ass turnover. Is what
well, let's see.
Hopefully, we won't see too many of those in the Euros.
Just some sloppy play.
Well, sort of what I do.
Well, I just hit the buttons and see what happens. Everyone's got a strategy, right?
Everyone does, But what though? Hitting the buttons and seeing a lot of games, arcade and Mortal Kombat against much more seasoned players. So.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for the strategy.
Did you ever get into many of those fighting games over the years?
Growing up, I did. I was a huge Street Fighter fan. I like Street Fighter probably a bit more than Mortal Kombat. but I did love Mortal Kombat. Killer Instinct was also my jam.
You know, fighting games were never really my thing. I always, like I just said, I would just hit buttons. But my friend was he would just crush me on them. Oh man, that was nice. That was nice.
That was individual effort right there. That was individual effort.
That was a splendid individual effort, must say. I'll tip my cap to that one. That was nice.
There was one fighting game that I especially loved as a kid. I think it was Primal Rage, but you fought as dinosaurs.
I remember that game.
And actually while you were in the fight or whatever, there were little villagers that always surrounded and it would like cheering on these dinosaurs going.
Yes, I remember that.
But if you were getting your butt whipped, you could actually eat the villagers.
I remember that.
That would replenish your health. And I must have spent more time eating villagers and less time worrying about my opponent. They're like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm like, look, man, it's the same reason I play Iowa when I hit Cruisin' USA. I want to hit the deer. That is it. I was so upset when Midway took out the deer because people got all offended about the fact that you could splat a deer in Cruisin' USA. Like, this is a virtual animal here, man. Come on.
Right. Yeah, that's that might be going a little bit too far with the animal rights, I guess. I don't know, but I mean, are we really going out of our way to defend digital deer? Do we need that?
Man. People were pissed off, and Midway had to issue this apology. The deer were removed. They weren't in the N64 game when it came out. Actually, I think the deer may have been in it, but you can no longer.
You can't hit them. Yeah.
I think they either ran out of the way or you just phased through them. But yeah, man, when you hit them in the arcade, the deer, they exploded. It was awesome, to say the least.
It's amazing how many things get removed from video games when they try to make the home console. You know, and that's one thing that Nintendo has been notorious about in their past. You know, Mortal Kombat. You know, they didn't allow blood to be in the game because they didn't want it to be on the family-friendly platforming, I guess. But yeah, whatever.
Which is strange when you consider how much better the Super Nintendo became once Nintendo stopped worrying about that stuff and sort of opened up the platform for game developers. Like, I think Mortal Kombat 3, once it eventually ended up going on Super Nintendo, was actually the outside of the PlayStation, the best rated version. And yeah, it's just amusing to me that Nintendo spent all that time fighting Destiny.
Well, Nintendo's always been kind of their own outlier in many respects in the industry, and for a while it seemed to work for them, and now they're kind of lagging behind, doing their own thing.
Well, to be honest, it almost still felt like it was working for them again when you saw Nintendo and you're like, they're back, and then they followed up the Wii with the Wii U, and the minute I saw that gamepad, I said to myself, this is going nowhere. I bought one. I play the heck out of it, and I love that system. I do. I think the Wii U is a fantastic system. But I knew when they made it, I'm like, game developers are not going to want to work with that gamepad. Like, that is so flippin' cumbersome.
Yeah, that's always been the biggest drawback. They just can't find a way to get the third-party support the other countries have. Hey, you know what? You just took the win on from me here.
I did. I do believe that this is the first time I've gotten a win. No, baseball.
No, you won a baseball game, yeah, but you finally got a win in soccer. That's your bread and butter right there.
I feel more complete.
Well, you gotta win on the board. We gotta update a scoreboard. Was what we gotta do on this stream. We'll have to work that out.
I think that means next week's game should be Rocket League.
Rocket League. All right.
If you've not played Rocket League, sir,
I have not.
It's $20. It may even be cheaper, but it was PlayStation convinced the publishers of this company to make the game free, and they were like, "Oh man, we so didn't want to do it." And once the game became free for PlayStation, when they launched it, it went viral on a level that they could not imagine. And they ended up saying, like, doing PlayStation's free game of the month ended up being like the best thing we ever could have done. Like, there's no way we could have probably generated the publicity, because Sony did all the promotion for it, and you
Right.
just, if you're a small game company, you can't generate those kinds of funds. It's just not possible.
Definitely not. No, yeah.
But,
you got to have some support there, that's for sure.
It's basically 3-on-3 soccer with cars, and you can decorate your cars however you'd like. My car has a sombrero and a Dutch flag.
I like the idea of that.
It's built into an arena that you can drive on the roof, and it is an immensely fun game. I suggest downloading it this week and fiddling around with it. But yeah, you're gonna be like, holy crap, this is a really fun game.
You know, Rocket League. I'm gonna jot that down now. I'm gonna make myself a memo.
They also have add-on packs that you can buy, where if you want, you can put the Back to the Future DeLorean on the pitch if you want.
Oh, okay.
A-Team. I think they have like the A-Team minivan.
Can I get a Ghostbusters car?
I do believe that they did make that, actually.
All right. I like the direction that this is heading.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's sort of a win-win for everybody.
So we just finished up the game, Josh. Why don't we had a couple other topics we could have gotten into, but why don't we actually wrap it up here and call it a day while things seem to be running okay, and that way we can end on a high note. We've got something that we can build forward.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about one thing that we probably shouldn't be gaming while we talked about it.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And you know, I know you've been covering it. I had my say about it in my open letter to football. But I think we've reached a tipping point. I hope so, in society, for what is happening at the expense of victories in college football, with programs like Baylor not just dismissing women who were sexually assaulted, but actively engaging in administrative cover-ups. I don't really know where to begin to talk about how reprehensible this type of behavior is. I don't think there are words for this, and you do your own research on this, and you find that one young woman who actually her accuser was convicted and sent to prison, of all things, so that just sort of makes what happened to her even more, I want to say, mind-boggling, but the simple truth of the matter is that it's not mind-boggling. The sad state is that these administrators care far more about the glory and wins of football than they do the well-being of the students on their campus. And you know, one young woman reported a rape to the university, and not only did they cover it up, but they found a way to strip her of half of her scholarship. And then ultimately, everybody in the school shamed her until she left.
Yeah. It's not.
You process that for a second. She was raped, reported it to the authorities, who then sat there in a room with her for, she had to recount what had to have been the worst night of her life. They immediately walk out after giving her lip service, participate in a cover-up, and then find a way to take even more of her dignity from her. And it's mind-boggling on a level that I cannot comprehend. And it's so reprehensible to me that at the collegiate level, at what is supposed to be higher academics, that anybody with that little common sense could ascend to a position to where they could be so powerful that they can make that decision. it is discouraging not just on a humanist level, but on an academic level and just every other imaginable level. I don't know, dude. I personally do not. And then, as if Baylor didn't have enough of a PR issue on their hands, now the families who signed their letter of intent in February, thinking that they were going to be playing for Bryles, and I imagine not walking into a university that had participated in the cover up of I'm going to assume dozens of sexual assaults. We know of 8 right now, but these things tend to grow. And I'm sure that as word got around at Baylor from women, because word does spread, and girls are going to tell other girls, honey, if you go, they're just going to make your life hell. And I'm sure girls started looking out for other, which is sad. It is sad to say that Baylor women on campus had to, quote, look out for one another by telling them not to report sexual assaults that happened to them.
It's incredibly sad. Everything about this story is just so depressing. And go ahead.
Now the families that signed their letter of intent are like, we signed on for, we'd like out, and Baylor's like, to hell with you. You signed a contract. This is not the hill you want to die on.
Exactly. And then that's you said it all very brilliantly right now, and it echoes a lot of the things that I've been saying and feeling as well. I just call everything that happened at Baylor was a systematic failure from the top down, with the leadership, with the football staff, Art Briles. A lot of people have to pay for this, and that's going to be playing out for a long time now. As someone who has followed the whole saga at Penn State over the years, I can tell you this is not going to go away anytime soon. And certainly it's just going to be lingering for a while to some degree. I think it's best if Baylor can find a way to get their leadership intact and come out and admit what happened, admit what went wrong, admit your failure. Don't have your former president, then resigning chancellor, go take an ESPN interview and say some of the things he did, unless you've got a PR guy that's going to stand there ready to stop the interview when things are being said that just continue to paint a bad picture about what's going on there. It's an unfortunate situation, and as I wrote earlier this week, or I guess last week, it's a shocking story, but unfortunately, and you were kind of alluding to this, unfortunately, it's not all that much of a surprising story. And this is something that this is kind of stuff that we're going to be seeing. We've seen stuff like this, and we're going to see stuff like this again. Hopefully, not to this degree or to this extent, but it's not going anywhere.
On social media right now, throwing their shots at Baylor, you should probably stop, because you have no idea what could come out.
Right. Yep.
You may be sitting there with a lot of egg on your face.
Yeah. You don't want to. This is not something where you want to throw stones at a program because you're holier than thou as you're a fan of your program, because not every program is playing everything by the book. We know that. And again, hopefully, stuff to this degree and this extent is not all that common, but we know that there's stuff like this happening. Unfortunately, it doesn't get reported nearly as much as it should. Hopefully, though, as I've always said, hopefully when we see a story like this,
statistics on unreported rapes would suggest, if you extrapolate out from there, just the sheer national statistics, of the number of rapes that go unreported would obviously suggest that this problem is probably far more widespread. And you know what? Baylor, as disturbing as this is to imagine, may not even be on the bad end of the spectrum. I mean, we don't. It's obviously awful, and everything will be falling under the disgusting end of this spectrum. But if you're using a sliding scale of disgusting to reprehensible, to basically inhuman, we have no idea what could come out. Like you said, I don't think anybody ever imagined that we would one day be talking about a program like Penn State that actively engaged, and I'm not saying the university did, but at least at some level actively engaged in the cover-up of pedophilia. not phrases we ever. You rewind back to like the start of the 2000s, and you're just, I mean, it seems astonishing that we're here, and yet at the same time, it seems perfectly natural.
It does, and that's really what depresses me, because when something like this comes out, you want to be shocked and rocked to your core. But and I'm not saying that I've been less than bewildered, but this is just something that I would love to be able to say this is never going to happen again, but unfortunately, it will to some extent. It's just a matter of when.
Yep, it is. And the sad thing is, and this is really the best place to end it, I remember John Oliver going on a rant shortly before Loretta Lynch just decimated FIFA. And John Oliver was saying, like, the sad part about this is I'm not going to stop watching this sport. Like, no matter how many human rights violations, no matter how many disgusting things happen, I am not going to stop watching this sport. I love it. And I think it's better that we start at that point and then figure out what to do. Because short of nuking college football and starting over,
right,
people aren't going to stop watching. So a boycott's not the solution. We just need to come up with real and feasible issues. But certainly I can promise that next week's podcast will not be this somber at the end. In fact, we may even come up with something. You know what we should do?
What should we do?
X-Men Apocalypse review.
Okay, I have not seen the movie yet. I may be able. Okay, well, we can definitely talk about that for sure, and I think that'll be a little bit more lighthearted in tone. So
get out this weekend and go and see it, and
all right,
and then come back with our.
I think that's
the verdict, as they say.
I think that is a brilliant idea. So let's plan on doing that, and we'll throw in some other topics, of course, covering some sports. E3 is just around the corner, Josh. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit at all as well.
I am so excited. You know what pisses me off about E3?
What?
G4 no longer exists.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That's the only thing that pisses me off about E3. G4
I love G4.
Is no longer around.
Yeah, I mean, we have ways of watching this stuff online, but it was nice to have
stuff. But it's just such laggy streams, and they pick the products. They cut to these like one-on-one dev interviews, and I'm like, this is fantastic. But I don't care about this under the sea game that this dude invented. Although I will say this, at last year's E3, homeboy from Norway who was shaking with the little doll in his hand, like so excited to talk about that PlayStation game, might have been my favorite moment in like E3 history. That was quite simply fantastic. And I don't know if that game's even out yet, but if it is, I think I'm going to buy it. He was just so damn excited about that game, and it showed. I love that stuff, man. That's the type of stuff I love. When you see somebody who's quite literally poured their soul into just a small piece of artistic achievement, and then they get to share it with the world, then you can just see like how nervous and excited they are. That's why I love video games, man. It is art. It's art.
It is in many respects. Music, the graphics, the storytelling. There's a lot there to get involved with. So what we'll do is here's two topics we will definitely cover next week. We'll go out. We'll get our X-Men thoughts together, and then we'll come back and talk about that. And we'll kind of take a look forward to E3, because I think it'll be coming up the week after that. So we'll definitely want to touch on some things that maybe we want to see, and maybe
yes, we definitely should do that.
We'll definitely do that. Yeah.
A list of games that we want to see, and a list. You know what? I'm gonna come up with a list of games I don't want to see. Like, I don't.
There you go.
Don't show me this. Show me this instead.
I like that idea. So we'll definitely we'll throw those two as maybe the big topics, and then we'll throw in some other things. Of course, we'll talk some sports as well. We always do that. Josh, is there anything else you want to say? Otherwise, we can wrap this one up and go back and look at it and check out the feedback, and hopefully we got some good things here.
No, just if you like what you hear, follow us on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at FightOnTwist. You like I said, find Kevin at KevinOnCFB, and blast us, love us, like us, tell us what's wrong, tell us how to fix. I don't care if you tell us we suck. Just please at least tell us how to fix it. Like, if you got the technical knowledge, you can send me an email stating that this is the worst podcast you have ever heard in your life. Just tell us how to fix it.
Josh, as we cover college football, I'm sure we have heard much worse on the Twitter feed in our mentions from time to time. So I have no problem with hearing somebody tell me how much something is sucking. So just, hey, I'll take any feedback you guys have. Yeah, and you just brush it aside and you kind of laugh about it sometimes. But in this case, we do want to hear feedback. Positive, negative. We want to hear all the feedback we can possibly get. So please let us know what you think. What would you like to see from us going forward? And, what can we improve on moving forward? That's basically what we need to find out. So if that's it, Josh, let's wrap this one up and let's call it a day. And we'll come back and reconvene next week at a time to be determined.
Cue the Betty Brothers.
I don't have that.
The Betty Brothers, our soundtrack. It was made by the Betty Brothers. Friend Lewis and Sam Betty. So I was saying, cue our outro music, the Betty Brothers.
Do we have outro music?
Well, I think the tail end of the intro is actually supposed to be the outro.
All right, well, tell you what, we'll figure that out for next time. How about that?
You heard the Betty Brothers in the beginning. This is just an unceremonious ending. We will catch you next time here on the Hyrule Huddle.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.